Tactile signing is a common means of communication used by people with both a sight and hearing impairment, see deafblindness, which is based on a sign language or other system of manual communication. Tactile signing refers to the mode or medium, i.e. signing, using some form of signed language or code, using touch. It does not indicate whether the signer is using a tactile form of a natural language, e.g. American Sign Language, ASL, a modified form of such a visual sign language, a modified form of a manual code for English, manually coded English, or something else. It has also been referred to as hand over hand, referring to the position of the listener viscount the signer. Kinds. Several methods of deaf-blind communication may be referred to as tactile signing, including hand over hand, also known as hands-on signing. The receiver's hand, are placed lightly upon the back of the hands of the signer to read the signs through touch and movement. The sign language used in hand-over-hand signing is often a slightly modified version of the local sign language. This is especially the case when used by people who have learned to read sign visually before losing their vision, as with Usher syndrome. The sign language used may also be a manually coded version of the local oral language, such as signed English, or a midway point between the two known as contact signing. Tracking: the listener lightly places their hand, on the wrists or forearms of the signer to help them track the signs visually, as the listener knows the location of their own hands and is thus able to focus on the signer's hand, as they move in space. The listener using tracking typically has a limited field of vision. Tactile fingerspelling: a manual form of the alphabet, in which words are spelled out. See manual alphabet. Different manual alphabets may be used, such as the one-handed ASL alphabet or the two-handed manual alphabets used, for example, in Britain. Again, the listener places a hand over that of the signer. This alphabet is also rarely used in the United States. Adaptations: we all adapt to our imperfect body, using glasses, crutches, and so on. Human beings also adapt to an environment, for example by modifying our diet to fit the local ecology. See adaptation. Until the 1970s it was rare for a person to be both deaf and blind, and most people who were deaf and blind lived lives of isolation. As professionals became aware of this, population attempts were made to serve both adults and children who are deaf and blind by modifying the manual alphabet mentioned above, or the sign language used by deaf-sighted people. See, for example, Helen Keller National Center, Lighthouse for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and Alabama Institute for the Deaf and Blind. Professionals developed ways to communicate with their clients/students/patients who were deaf-blind. These are listed below. Lorem, a hand-touch alphabet developed in the 19th century by deaf-blind inventor and novelist Hieronymus Lorem and still used in Europe. Tracing or print on palm, tracing letters, or shapes, onto the palm or body of receiver. Capital letters produced in consistent ways are referred to as the block alphabet or the Spartan alphabet. Braille signing, using 6 spots on the palm to represent the 6 dots of a Braille cell. Alternatively, the signer may type onto a table as if using a Braille typewriter, see Perkins Brailler, and the receiver will place their hands on top. This method can have multiple receivers on top of each other, however a receiver sitting opposite will be reading the Braille cell backwards. Additionally, simple ways of responding such as a tap for yes or a rubbing motion for no may be included. In Japan, a system developed by a deaf-blind woman is in use to represent the 5 vowels and 5 major consonants of the Japanese language on the fingers, where the signer types onto a table and the receiver places their hands on top to listen. See this page for more info. What was especially challenging was communicating with children or babies born deaf and blind who had not had an opportunity to learn a natural, spoken or signed, language. Below are listed some of these attempts. Active signing: the sender moves and manipulates the hands and arms of the deaf-blind person to form sign shapes, or fingerspelt words. This is often used with deaf-blind children to teach them signs, and with people with an intellectual disability. On-body signing: the body of the person who is deaf-blind is used to complete the sign formation with another person. E.g., chin, palm, chest. Often used with people who also have an intellectual disability. Communities develop. Fortunately, as the decades progressed, deaf-blind people began to form communities where a tactile language is being born. Just as deaf people brought together in community first used an invented form of the spoken language and then created/evolved their own natural language that suits the life of a deaf-sighted person, i.e. a visual language, so too, deaf-blind people in community have first used a modified form of a visual language and are now creating/evolving their own natural tactile/tactual language. For the development of visual sign languages, see for example, Deaf Education, List of Sign Languages, Nicaraguan Sign Language. One of the most active communities is in the Seattle area of Washington State. See Washington State Deaf-Blind Citizens vs. Visual Sign Language. Little data exists on the specifics of variation between visual and tactile sign language use. However, what studies there are suggest a significant degree of difference. In hand-over-hand signing, elements of deaf sign languages known as non-manual features, such as facial expression, will not be received, and will need to be substituted with supplementary information produced manually. Common non-manual features used in deaf sign languages that are absent in tactile signing include raised eyebrows as a question marker and a shaking head as a negation. Tactile signing is also contained within a smaller space than is typical in visual sign language. Signs that touch the body may be moved forward into a more neutral space. Other signs which are usually produced in an out-of-range location, such as the leg, may be modified, either spelled or a variant sign used. Different rules govern turn-taking, greetings and goodbyes. Interacting with deaf-blind people. When interacting with deaf-blind people, a number of considerations can smooth the interaction. Many deaf-blind people make the most of their remaining sight, so the right lighting is vital. Mostly bright, even light is best, avoid glare, but some prefer dim light, so it is best to ask. Susie Morgan suggests the following guidelines for appearance and attire of interpreters working with deaf-blind clients. Wear clothes that provide contrast for your hands. Consider the following when selecting clothing. Dark colors, black, navy blue, brown, dark green, etc., for persons with light skin. Light colors, off-white, tan, peach, etc., for persons with dark skin. Solid-colored clothing, avoid stripes, polka dots, etc. High necklines, no scoop necks or low V-necks, contrasting colors between skin tone and background walls can also help. It is better to avoid jewelry which can be distracting, either tactually, e.g. rings and bracelets, or visually, e.g. sparkling drop earrings. Fingernails should also be short and smooth. A neutral color of nail polish may be worn, but bright reds and dark colors can be too strong. Working in close proximity to clients when using tactile sign, interpreters need to be aware of strong smells such as perfumes, cigarette smoke, or onion breath. Tactile signing can also be exhausting for both the interpreter and the deaf-blind client. Breaks are even more important than with regular interpreting, and should be taken more often. Correct seating can also reduce the risk of strain of injury. Both communication partners should be comfortable and at an equal height. Specially designed cushioned tables for tactile signing can be employed. History. In 1648 in England, John Bulwer wrote of a couple who were proficient in tactile sign communication. A pregnant example of the officious nature of the touch in supplying the defect or temporal incapacity of the other senses we have in one Master Babington of Bentwood in the county of Essex, an ingenious gentleman, who through some sickness becoming deaf, doth notwithstanding feel words, and as if he had an eye in his finger, sees signes in the dark, whose wife discourseth very perfectly with him by a strange way of arthrology or alphabet contrived on the joints of his fingers, who, taking him by the hand in the night, can so discourse with him very exactly, for he feeling the joints which she toucheth for letters, by them collected into words, very readily conceives what she would suggest unto him. By which examples you may see how ready upon any invitation of art, the tact is, to supply the defect, and to officiate for any or all of the other senses, as being the most faithful sense to man, being both the founder, and vicar general to all the rest.
Please subscribe and thanks for watching.